Hello, everybody. Barbara Drazga here, and today we're going to be talking Amazon FBA wholesale, and we're going to talk about how to negotiate with brand owners for the win. So getting to yes. For every no you get, we also want to get a bunch of wins and a bunch of yeses too when approaching a supplier in order to lock down a wholesale account with them. So I just wanted to put that screen up so you can see what we're talking about today. And let me get back to there we go, my face on the screen so we can chat a little bit. Hey, we were talking before I hit the record button, so I just want to share with you guys. We were talking about our goals for 2019, and the folks who are live on this webinar dropped some really interesting goals in the chat. So I just wanted to share those right out of the gate. So Brian Reynolds says his goal for 2019 is hoping to increase sales by 50% while significantly decreasing the number of products. That's a very interesting goal, Brian. He wants to reduce the amount of time he's personally engaged in the Amazon business without decreasing profit. I like that. So you can go for a higher priced profit and higher ROI profit. Maybe they don't sell as many, there's not as much volume a month, but your price point is three times higher than a lot of other sellers, so you can sell less but make even more. And Brian wants to establish relationships with manufacturers that allow him to have exclusivity or near exclusivity of great consumable products. Boy, Brian, I love how very direct and detailed your goals are. So this is, for you guys who are looking in the chat, take a look at what Brian wrote, because that's the way that he structured his goal setting here. They're very deliberate of what he wants to accomplish and very targeted. So great example. Mary wants to do 400,000 in sales this year. I'm assuming wholesale is going to be your model to get there. Cindy, 2019 is the year she's going to crush wholesale and Amazon FBA. Leroy likes my new paint. Thank you. It's my favorite color. Yes, business to outsource, add wholesale to add up sales. Cindy is a retired nurse. She did print on demand for years, merch by Amazon, and she wants to make Amazon FBA her new business. And she's done some RA, but wholesale is the direction she wants to go. And that's great, because that's the topic we're talking about today, is how to get wholesale suppliers to say yes, to beg you basically to sell their product. And I happen to be really good at that. I've got a nickname, I was given the nickname called the Deal Diva by somebody else, because I'm just so good at over the years. It's not like, I was born with this skill, but over the years I've developed a skill on making really good deals for that are win-win, not just all about me, but that also benefit suppliers and whoever I'm doing a deal with. So today we're going to talk about how to work those kinds of deals with wholesale suppliers. So I'm just going to go ahead and dig in. Now, this is mostly going to be me talking to you today, not a PowerPoint presentation. So I've got, see my notes here? So go ahead and grab a yellow pad so you can take notes as well, and I'm just going to dig right in. So your ultimate goal, here we go. Today we're talking about how to create a win-win negotiating relationship with a wholesale supplier. Now, one of the biggest problems that Amazon sellers run into when they start sourcing wholesale is they get a lot of no's. They get a lot of suppliers right out of the gate. They say, we're not accepting Amazon sellers. So, and then they get discouraged and they stop. And that's such a shame. That's such, because from what I understand, a lot of suppliers will say no out of the gate to see how you react. So they know that the serious sellers are going to come back at them again and ask a series of questions that I'm going to share with you in this conversation. Because that's their first way of weeding out the sellers who really don't take this business seriously, or they don't take having an Amazon FBA business seriously at all. So you don't let no affect you emotionally, okay? Don't be emotional about it. Just know that that's part of the process of approaching brand owners. So we're assuming that you've done your research and you've done your sourcing research for products, and now you have a list of suppliers that you can contact to talk about reselling their products on Amazon. So your ultimate goals are relationship building. So you want to build long-term relationships, which, so if you contact suppliers with the goal of setting up an account to make one order, they are not looking for that kind of partnership with sellers. So to be on the same page, you want to develop a long-term relationship that might not result in an order today, but could very well result in a semi-exclusive or exclusive relationship down the road. So know that your first contact with a supplier is with the goal to have a long-term relationship with them. So the next thing, so when you have, here's some of the things that you have. Your ultimate goals are to create that relationship, to be the first call or email they make when they get new inventory in, or if they're out of stock on a product. This actually happened to me, what is today? Thursday. Last week, a supplier has a container coming in June, and he emailed me or called me. This supplier called me to see if I wanted to pre-order. I've got 3 SKUs on that container that sell really well for me, and he goes out of stock quickly. So I was the only supplier he called to see if I wanted to pre-order what was on that container, which I did. I negotiated a great discount, bought all of his quantity on those 3 SKUs, so that when that container comes in and any other seller on that listing says, hey, we want to place an order, they're out of stock because I've locked down all that inventory. So that doesn't happen overnight. That is a result of having developed a relationship with the supplier and delivered for him and had provided value to the relationship and placed regular, consistent orders with them. So another thing that is a result of having a goal of having a relationship with a supplier is many times I can get suppliers now to send my product directly to Amazon and then have Amazon pay 20 cents a label to have Amazon label my products. So this saves me the shipping time from supplier to prep center to Amazon. So I can go now directly from supplier to Amazon, and all I do is create a shipping plan using we're sending, they don't have to split up the shipment into different fulfillment centers because we're going to do case packed products. And then in the shipping plan, I choose Amazon to put the labels on them for like 20 cents. It was 20 cents less, I checked. And then I create the shipping plan. I send the PDF labels off to my supplier. They put them on the boxes for me. It wings its way to Amazon. So now for anybody who's actually shipping twice, I now have a lower cost per product. So I have more wiggle room to pay-per-click. I have a higher ROI on that product than much of my competition. And another outcome of having a goal of developing a long-term relationship is I get referrals. So once I've got a great relationship with a supplier, these brand owners know other brand owners in their industry and beyond. And when they go to trade shows, they make friendships with these other companies that go to trade shows. And if when they're at these trade shows or they're communicating with another supplier and the supplier starts complaining about all these Amazon sellers who don't know what they're doing and tired of getting contact, I'm the name that comes up. And they say, wait, we're working with this lady, Barbara Drazga, who she's just a joy to work with. She's very professional. She helps meet our needs. She helps brainstorm with us to find out the best way to promote or have our brand reach Amazon seller or Amazon customers better, and how to present our brand in a way that is with our core values. Let me give you her number. Right. So I also make sure they have a few of my cards as well. I'll send them a little pack of cards with that's called HLO, hard and lumpy objects. And I talk about hard and lumpy objects in a course I have coming up, or the bonuses you get with the wholesale formula when you enroll through me. It's called Brand Woo. And I talk about all the different ways I use to develop that relationship to woo brands so that they want to work with me. So those are the ultimate goals when you're negotiating with suppliers and the potential outcomes when you have a relationship. Okay, so the first thing you have to do as an Amazon seller, you have to do a mindset shift. So you've got to switch your brain to, and I like to use the analogy of dating. So you might, but you wouldn't be successful if you walked into a social environment and you walked up to an interesting looking person. Let's say it's a guy walking up to a girl and he says, wow, how you doing? Will you marry me? Now, how do you think that girl's going to react, after she throws a drink in his face or laughs at him, right? Very, very low percentage of women are going to respond to that and say, sure, let's go to the altar, right? So an alternative, and this is the take I have, is a mindset shift of walk in and how can I show an interest in that other person? And in showing an interest, I get to know them better so I know what they like, so I can approach them in a manner that meets their needs and shows that I'm genuinely, you can't feign interest, that I'm genuinely interested in that person and their business and their niche and their market and their product. So instead you would walk in and you say, hi, oh my gosh, I love that scarf. That's really interesting. I see a lot of women wearing scarves these days. Is that a fashion trend? And where did you pick that up? Why did you start wearing scarves? And I might say, that'll lead into, hey, I lived in New York for a long time, and this is just kind of a habit for me as a fashion trend. I almost feel naked without a scarf around my neck and tied differently, and I can use it different ways. And so he's got me talking about myself, doesn't he? Right? So now, and he's taking an interest in the answer. He's not just looking around at other girls. He's actually listening to the answers that I give to his questions. And that's really key. So it's not just about asking the right questions of a brand owner, but it's listening to and internalizing their responses in order to make a deeper connection in that conversation. Okay, so that mindset shift is instead of going into a conversation with a brand owner to try to get something, you want to go in to add value and serve. And the desired end result, of course, is that you do business together, but your initial take is, how can I serve this brand? How can I help this brand with the knowledge that I have about Amazon? Okay, so once you make that shift, let me take a little slug of water here. Now, before you make a contact with a brand, I like to be prepared. Now, there's some sellers out there, and there are many different ways to approach this business. And there are some sellers who just do the numbers game, and they want to put as many products in the top of their pipeline as possible, as many brands, and automate everything, which is it is definitely one approach. They have to they have a goal of maybe contacting 100 suppliers a day or 500 suppliers a week. So I like quality over quantity. So my initial communication with suppliers will be a lot more about providing value. So I may initially communicate with fewer suppliers, but I do it in a way that increases my conversion rate. All right. So one of the ways I do that is I prepare before my call. I do pre-call research. And what you want to do is you want to check out all the products on Amazon, check out the listings, do some screenshots, and there are a lot of I use Snagit to do screenshots. You can just use a screenshot, print screen on your keyboard. There are a lot of easy tools to do screenshots. You can even do a video of going through all their products. Then I want to do research on the brand itself. So I'll Google their brand, and I'll go to their website, and I'll see what kind of products they're selling, what new products they have coming out. But I really want to get an understanding of what their niche market is. So if they're selling a dog supplement, a supplement for elderly dogs, and I go to their website and I see their ideal target market is owners of elderly dogs, then I want to educate myself on that market a little bit. All right, we'll talk about niching in just a bit, becoming a niche expert. So I want to educate myself so that when I have a conversation with them, I can show them that I understand what's important to them and their customers right in the first conversation. So I do that pre-call research on their products, their brand, and the market that they sell to. So the next thing we do, so a lot of Amazon sellers get caught with that initial no because they haven't asked the right person. They haven't sent that initial email or made that first phone call to the right person, and they get what I call a gatekeeper. Now, the gatekeeper's mandate is a lot of times it's a marketing assistant or it's an executive assistant, and their mandate is, if an Amazon seller calls, tell them we're not taking any more Amazon sellers. Put a 1 in the chat if you've ever experienced anything like that. And if you're doing even a little bit of wholesale, guaranteed at a trade show or a phone call, you've gotten a rejection because you're an Amazon seller. So the key is it's twofold. 1, develop a relationship with the gatekeeper, right? So you want to turn that gatekeeper from a gatekeeper into a cheerleader for you as a different kind of Amazon seller. And there's some ways that's a little bit longer conversation, but I might do another webinar on that, on just the communication with the gatekeeper. But the next thing you can do is I go to LinkedIn and I'll type in the brand owner's name, right, the company name, and then sales manager or sales supervisor or just sales rep. And then LinkedIn will feed back to me, hopefully, if they're on LinkedIn, which many businesses are, that's the professional kind of social media platform. It will feed back to me the people in the sales department, and then I will completely go around the gatekeeper, go directly to a sales manager. So, but I'll approach them not as, oh yeah, I'm an Amazon seller. I'll approach them in a different way so that I'm developing a relationship with the actual decision maker, not the gatekeeper. Okay. So let's see how many people are in the chat have, yes, you've all gotten rejections. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of ones. You all have rejections, and I'd say, woohoo, welcome to Amazon Wholesale, and I'm really excited. Okay, Lisa Shanez puts, I don't know, about 33 ones in there. So for those who Dan cooks, a bunch of ones. So you've all gotten rejections. And I say that's a cool thing because if they're rejecting you, they're rejecting everybody else. So what I don't want is a supplier, I contact them and they say, oh, you're an Amazon seller? Oh yeah, we love Amazon sellers. We sell to all sorts of Amazon sellers. I actually don't like those suppliers. I want the ones that are a little bit, that's like the girl you walk in and say, hey, will you marry me? And she's married 18 other guys that night, right? I don't want that. I want one that's a little bit harder to get because that means I call them lazy Amazon sellers. That first no, that first rejection, they go away. So that whittles down my competition right out of the gate. So I like getting the no's because I know that with my skill set and with just a couple of different approaches than other lazy Amazon sellers, I can get past that no to develop a relationship that's long-term and adds to my bottom line of regular predictable sales every single month. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is become a niche expert. I love this. So let's say you lock down a company that sells supplements to the elderly dog market. So, and you've done your research, so you start understanding that market, and then you ask yourself, well, what else do these elderly dog owners or the dogs who are elderly, what else do they need? Do they need maybe blankets, calming blankets, like weighted blankets? Do they get cold more easily? Do they have a different nutritional need, right? And then I start looking for brands that have products that solve those problems for that same market. Because now I can go to those other brand owners and say, hey, look, we already sell products in the market that your product is in. It might or might not compete against your product, but you can say, we're experts in this market. We understand the needs of elderly dogs, and we understand your product and how it meets those needs. So you're positioning yourself as someone who cares about their market and their product and understands what they're trying to accomplish with their brand. So you want to become a niche expert. Okay, next thing, you want to provide value. So instead of just that one conversation, okay, so let's say you have a date with a girl. I keep going back to the dating, the dating analogy because that brand woo course that I'm launching is kind of based on these analogies, how to woo a brand, right? So you want to provide value instead of just going in and saying, okay, woohoo, thanks for the date, and then never calling them again. Oh, big fail, huge fail, right? So you want to continue the conversation. So I'll provide articles. Hey, I found this article. There's this new DNA testing you can do on elderly or on dogs to find out what problems they might have when they're elderly. I just pulled it off the top of my head, right? And here's a link to that article. So you send them to the article in the Wall Street Journal that talks about this DNA testing for dogs, for example. And then competitive research. So you might, since you're now carrying different brands, you might find that there's a new product coming out from one of their competitors. Maybe you saw a television commercial for it, right? That's coming soon. You can reach out to them in email and say, hey, I just wanted to give you a heads up. Are you aware that one of your competitors is launching this line of products? Just wanted to give you a heads up. And you link over to their competitor's website. And then new product ideas. So as you enter a market and you start becoming a niche expert in it, you might think of ideas. Hey, this would be a really cool idea that would fit in your product line. I was just thinking about it today. You know, my neighbor's got an elderly dog who has, and this is a true thing, she was an English setter and she was practically deaf, right? And I guess that's the thing with English setters. So you'd had to scream a lot to get her to come to you. So, and she couldn't hear herself bark either, which was kind of interesting. So she'd go up against a window to be able to hear herself bark. So maybe that's a thing with elderly dogs that in certain breeds, they lose their hearing. And maybe that company would be interested in developing a brand. Maybe there's a hearing aid for dogs, who knows, right? Or eardrops. So you could drop those in an email and say, hey, I was just thinking that elderly dogs also have this kind of need. Have you ever thought about creating a product for it? And if you do create a product, we'd love to get it launched on Amazon for you as the exclusive reseller. So you're providing value in these emails, not just saying, I want to place an order, or saying, do you have any discounts for me, right? You're providing value that is relevant to them. Okay, so now we're going to go for the ask. So we've got the account with them and we've developed a bit of relationship, and now we're ready to place our orders. So here's some of the asks you can do. You can ask for free shipping. And they might say, well, we don't really normally do free shipping. and you say, well, tell you what, how about if I increase my order and do a half a pallet of that, which is like 28 cases instead of 18 cases, and you give us free shipping on that, all right? And then you can also negotiate the price down because you're buying more. And then the next thing I do is, did you know that a lot of suppliers have tiered pricing, but they're going to give you the top tier pricing, which is the most expensive. And unless you ask for the next tier pricing, they may never tell you they have better pricing. So right out of the gate, when you ask for, hey, what is your best tier pricing? They know that you know that that tier pricing exists in their organization, right? So that could leverage into a discount right out of the gate by asking for the best tier pricing. And then when an item is out of stock, I gave the illustration earlier that one of these suppliers has a container coming in beginning of June or beginning of July, and they go out of stock of these 3 SKUs really fast because they also sell into retail outlets. So I have to compete for that product when it comes in against large retail outlets for these 3 products, right? So I can pre-order these things and lock down that product without paying for it until it comes in. Lock down that product while it's still on a container, while it's still in China being manufactured, because they know what's coming in and there's a longer lead time for them. So if they can pre-sell, they know they've got some product pre-sold before that container ever hits. That provides them with a sense of security that they don't have to like scramble to find buyers for that product. So I like pre-ordering when things are out of stock. So that's another no you'll get is, oh, I'm sorry, we're out of stock on this. And a lot of sellers, most sellers will say, oh, okay, I'll try back in a few months. Well, I ask the right question. I say, when is the container coming in with the new stock? And how can I pre-order a bunch of that? Okay, so here's the biggest thing that stops Amazon, especially new Amazon sellers or new sellers or sellers who are new to the wholesale model. Fear stops them from picking up the phone. So I look at fear in another way. I wish I had a coin here because I like having props. So pretend this is a coin, right? This is actually a demo CD for a song I'm learning. But this is a coin, a quarter. And on this side, we have fear that stops us from doing something. But the same coin and the opposite side is anticipation, right? Look how nice and shiny that is. Isn't that much more attractive than this side, right? So it's the same energy, but you can take that fear and turn it into excitement and anticipation when you have a different perspective on it. So the way we can use fear is just ask yourself, if fear is stopping you from picking up the phone or sending that email, I want you to ask yourself this question. And if you want, you can write it down at the top of a legal pad and actually physically write down the answer to it, because writing down the answers to this next question is, and get ready to write, grab a pen, it's going to show you how absolutely ridiculous it is that fear is stopping you. And here's the question. You ready? Drum roll. What's the worst thing that could happen? If I call the supplier, what's the worst thing that could happen? Go ahead and drop the answer to that in the chat. I want you to brainstorm along with me because it's really helpful to get you over your fear. What's the worst thing that can happen when you call a supplier or when you email a supplier? And list the worst things that can happen. Go ahead and show me in the chat. I'll read them off real quick. Okay, so Scott wants to land his first wholesale account. Yay. They say no. That's right. And Terry says fear is false evidence appearing real, right? And also, gosh, please only stay in the Facebook groups like my Deal Deaver group or the TWF alumni group for the wholesale formula students that is positive and supportive and encouraging, because a lot of these groups, you've got these lazy sellers in there who say, this doesn't work. I keep getting rejected. I'm going to go off and get a real job because no suppliers will. So basically it's called confirmation bias. So when your mindset, you allow your mindset to be controlled by the lazy sellers who are not doing it right, or they're not going far enough, they're stopping at that no, and you listen to them long enough, you're going to develop this confirmation bias where everything negative they say is going to confirm in your brain, oh, this stuff doesn't work, before you even start. So you want your confirmation bias to be positive. You want to learn from successful Amazon sellers who are who have a wholesale business like myself that provides me with a base of income so I can build off of that, go in different directions, start new businesses, which I just like to do as an entrepreneur. It feeds me and fires me up to learn new things and go in different directions. So having predictable wholesale income every month and then outsourcing the pieces of that makes that sustain and grow, That's your goal. And you want to be around people like that who confirm that this model works, wholesale works, Amazon FBA works, this business works. So make sure you're surrounding yourself with the people with the right mindset, feeding you the right attitude and information. Okay, so overcoming fear, what's the worst that can happen? They say no. And Tammy says, the worst that can happen for her is she'll stumble over her words and sound stupid. Oh, I do that all the time. I do that all the time. If my blood sugar's low or, so I'm having a bad day or whatever, I stumble. So what I do is I call it out. I say, look, I didn't sleep much last night, got a bit of a headache. I really want to have this conversation with you. Let me start over. Let me see how I can help you. And you call it out and you just be real. You don't pretend to be real. You just be real. We're all human, right? And you could catch them at a bad time where they're like in a mood, and that makes you stumble a little bit. But I'm looking over here. I'm not trying to be rude, but I use the word stumble because there is a sign over here. I like ballroom dance, right? So there's a sign over here on my office. See, I stumbled over I just stumbled over my words. There we go. I've got a cabinet over there. And this says, if you stumble, make it part of the dance, right? So in dance, they say 90% of ballroom dancing is recovery. So if you stumble, you don't stop the dance, don't run off the dance floor and grumble for the next hour. You keep going, you make it part of the dance. You say, I meant to do that, right? So you just call it out when you stumble over your words and say, I'm sorry, let me start over again. I haven't had my coffee, right? And you just have a good attitude about it. So Kathleen says, negative people in their comments help them feel better about their own failures and lack of action or follow through. Exactly. So those people aren't even in my Deal Diva group. I don't allow people who have the mentality of failure is their set point. So just be careful in any business endeavor that you surround yourself with people who are successfully doing it and will encourage you and support you in your wins. Okay, so let's get into a couple of questions here. David asks, do you typically establish a selling relationship when you were new to distribution? Let me try that over again. Wow. Talk about illustrating what I'm talking about, right? David asks, did you typically establish a selling relationship when you were new to demonstrate how you could establish value for them? I am not sure what you're asking. Everybody starts at the same point. We all start new, right? And when I call up a supplier, he doesn't know whether or not you're a new seller. He doesn't know that I have 3.5 years experience in wholesale and 4 years experience in Amazon. He doesn't know that. We all start with that same phone call as a blank slate to that supplier, okay? So it's more about your attitude and your approach than anything else. I hope I got that right. I'm not selling, it's an unadvertised feature. Okay, I like that. There you go, it's all about attitude. Never call on a Monday. Yeah, think about it. And from both perspectives, Monday, maybe we don't have our brains on straight yet Monday morning, but from their perspective, they're catching up to all the customer service requests on Friday. They've got Monday morning staff meetings, whatever. So that's a really, really great, thank you for tossing that out there. What is the best day of the week to contact a wholesale supplier? I'm not sure, but we can find out. I find my emails get open most on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, which kind of validates what you were saying. Don't call on a Monday or a Friday. We'll have to test that a little bit. Okay, let me see what else we have. Yeah, so they say no. So here's the thing. If your biggest fear is that they're going to say no, then what you have is a strategy in place. Don't let that no be the stop sign. Make sure you have a strategy in place where you do a pattern interrupt and you say, I'm really glad that you're not accepting any regular Amazon seller. I'm really glad. Because no other seller is going to say that. So they're going to stop on the phone and say, did she just say that? Did he just say they're glad we're not taking Amazon sellers? Aren't you an Amazon seller? And that gives you the open, they're going to ask a question in return. And that gives you the opening to answer the question and provide value and make that connection in a different way than any other Amazon seller. So I hope I was able to give you guys a ton of content here. I did want to talk to you a little bit before, let's see, Jay says, when do you know when to stop pestering them? When you continue to take no for an answer. So Jay, I'm going to encourage you to reword that question in a positive way, right? Because you use the word stop pestering, won't take no for an answer. That's a very negative approach. So I'm going to challenge you to practice your positive thinking skills and reword that. And Anne says, when suppliers ask, where do you sell on Amazon? What's your seller name? What to say? That's a little bit further, deeper conversation. And if you follow me on Deal Lever, you can ask that question in my Deal Lever group on facebook.com/groups/Deal Lever. Also, for today and tomorrow, and today is Wednesday and tomorrow is Thursday, so February 20th and 21st, I'm going to take live coaching calls today and tomorrow. So here's what you do. You get 20 minutes to tell me where you're at in your Amazon business and ask me anything about wholesale sourcing. So your 3 burning questions. So you have 20 minutes to tell me where you're at in your Amazon questions and then your 3 burning questions. So make sure that you develop those questions about wholesale sourcing on Amazon for Amazon sellers before you call me. Here's the phone number. You ready? Write it down. It is, I had a piece of paper here earlier, 602-888-0342. Here it is. There we go. 602-888-0342. Starting a couple